Next, I want to talk a little bit about training collars. There are some good training collars and there are some poor training collars, and we want to make sure that we have a good collar so we can have great success. Remember earlier I talked about our training philosophy, that we're balanced trainers, that we use both rewards and consequences. We're going to have a separate video that's going to talk about how to use a training collar. The videos that we're giving you are not supposed to be substitutes for what you're learning with your trainer. They are simply supplements to help you to have more success, and it goes along with what you're learning from your trainer. So when I talk about training collars in any videos or training tools, it's important that you don't begin to use them with your dog until you've been properly instructed by your trainer how to use them. A tool is only as good as the individual using the tool. Now, when it comes to correction collars, training collars, we're basically going to be using one of two collars. We're either going to be using a prong collar or we're going to be using an electronic collar. Now, let me talk about both. I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. But the important thing that I'm going to say again that I said earlier, no tool and no training should cause fear, pain, or intimidation. And you can very humanely, very gently use a prong collar in training, just as you can very humanely and very gently use an electronic collar for training. Now, our preferred training collar, our preferred training tool is going to be the electronic collar. Now, there's been a lot of advances throughout the many, many years that these collars have been manufactured and been used. They are not a shock collar. It's important to understand that a shock will actually burn. A shock will go through the body and into the ground. If you got hit by lightning, you're going to get a burn. You are going to have that current go through you and actually into the ground. If you stick your fingers in a light socket, you're going to get shocked and you most likely are going to get burned, and that is also going to travel through your body and into the ground. Today's electronic collars use medical grade electrical stimulation. We use it at a very low level. If you've ever had a bad back or sore muscles or known somebody that had to go to a chiropractor or orthopedic specialist or for physical therapy, you might be familiar that they use electrical stimulation to actually heal muscles, to actually relax muscles. If you've got a very tight knot, muscular, in your back or anywhere on your body, and you've got a spasm, they'll use what's called a TENS unit. And a TENS unit is nothing more than a couple patches with wires that they hook up to your body. Let's say that I've got a muscle here, they put a patch here, they put a patch here, there's wires from that, and it goes to a remote. And that remote has a dial, and you turn up or down electrical current. You use it at a very low level, and what it does is it gives little contractions to the muscle. And as you're doing that, the muscle begins to relax, begins to settle down, and it actually feels good. It's something that they use for healing. Now, the same electrical stimulation that's in medical grade TENS units is what's in the electronic collars that we use. We don't advise you to go out and purchase your own collar. There's a lot of inferior collars out there that the only settings they have are painful, and they don't all use medical grade stimulation. The ones that we use are very gentle. They don't cause fear, they don't cause pain, they don't cause intimidation. It's basically just a mild sensation, in some cases a tingle or a tickle, and we're gonna let you feel the collar and what it feels like before we ever put it on your dog. And it's important for you to understand that if you don't want to use this collar, we're not gonna make you use this collar with your dog. However, in over 20 years using these collars and thousands of dog owners and dogs that I've worked with, there's maybe only been about 3 people that have not wanted to use the collar. We're also going to demonstrate the use of it with your dog, and you're going to see your dog being very, very happy. And that's the important thing. Don't judge the tool. How is your dog reacting to the tool? Is your dog's tail wagging? Is your dog happy? Or is your dog crying out, whining? Is your dog jumping? The important thing, again, is not the tool, but how you're taught how to use the tool. And do you have a really good collar that the settings on the collar are so low that it can be almost imperceptible? We've got very sophisticated adjustability with the collars that we use. There's 100 settings, and there's a very tiny gap between each setting, between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. With that, we can fine-tune the setting for each individual dog's sensitivity. I mentioned a little bit earlier when we talked about corrections that the dog actually determines what that level is. So we're going to use the lowest setting possible, just high enough where your dog recognizes it and finds it just mildly annoying, and nothing more than that. Again, we're going to demonstrate this for you. You're going to get a chance to feel this before we ever use it with your dog. And hey, if you don't want to use it, we won't use it. The other tool is a prong collar. And for the most part, when we're talking about training dogs using corrections, we're limited as far as what the tools are. We don't want you yelling at the dog, and in some cases, maybe you've been yelling at your dog and you've found out that, hey, when your dog's really distracted and exciting, doesn't matter how loud your voice is, your dog doesn't care. And the last thing we want you doing is kicking your dog. We don't want you punching your dog. We don't want you hitting or slapping your dog. That's inhumane. Now, with a prong collar, it's kind of the same principle. With these prongs, they will put pressure on your dog's neck. So when you pull on the leash, this will close in around the dog's neck, putting pressure. You control the pressure. We're going to teach you how to use this properly so it doesn't cause pain, so it doesn't cause fear, so it doesn't cause intimidation. There's a right way and a wrong way to use this tool also. We don't want you using this tool on your dog if you decide to use this until we've had an opportunity to teach you how to use this. Now, I want to talk about the pros and cons of this tool versus the electronic collar. One of the things that I need to talk about is consistency in training and what it feels like. When we use this and you are training your dog, again, the way that it works is you've got a leash on the dog, you're pulling on the collar, and when you pull on the collar, it then puts pressure around the dog's neck. Now, unless you're a machine and a robot, chances are every time you pull on that leash and you put pressure around the dog's neck with the collar, the amount of pressure is going to be a little bit different. Sometimes it's going to be a little more, sometimes it's going to be a little less. Yes, we're all going to try to be as consistent as possible, but with this, there's a variable, there's a degree in which we can't precisely control exactly what that pressure is to make that consistent each and every time. Now, when we use an electronic collar, we've got a rheostat dial. We get to adjust the remote, and once we pick your dog's right level, that's consistent. It doesn't matter if I'm using this, if you're using this, if somebody else in your family is using this. Every time we use it, your dog's going to feel the exact same sensation. It gets very confusing for dogs if one time they feel something at one level, another time they feel it at a different level. They're not going to understand it. The way dogs think, the way they learn, the way they process information, everything is extremely black and white. This is a very black and white tool because, again, you can be very, very consistent. Also, it's an easier tool for you because rather than have to learn some really advanced leash skills, it's something that you can press a button, let it go. Press a button, let it go. And that's something that we have 4-year-old children doing, training their dogs with this collar. So you don't have to have a degree in rocket science to use this, but again, we want to teach you the right way to use it. It's something that's very, very consistent. The other advantage to the electronic collar is that when you use it and you turn it off, as soon as you turn it off, the dog feels nothing. that sensation goes away. Nothing lingers. Well, learning theory tells us that when the dog's being corrected, as soon as the dog does the right thing, that correction has to be removed immediately. It would be very confusing for the dog if you corrected a dog and he stopped the unwanted behavior and yet the dog continued to feel the correction. The dog wouldn't know whether it did something right or not. It would be very confused and that would be stressful. Again, with the electronic collar, when the dog feels something when you press the button, as soon as you let it go, that's gone. Nothing ever lingers. Now, that's not the case when it comes to giving a physical correction with a leash and collar. When you put that pressure on the dog's neck and you let it go, some of that pressure, some of that sensation lingers after you've released the pressure. It's just the nature of physical pressure. With the electronic collar, there's no physical pressure. Remember, we're using very low-level medical-grade electrical stimulation that's just a tingle or a tickle, and as soon as you turn that off, it's gone. Now, if you want to understand exactly what I'm talking about, if you take your thumbnail and your index fingernail and you go to your earlobe and you give it a good pinch. Don't be a wimp about it, but give it a good pinch with your nail and now let it go. If you did this, and I want you to do it, you're gonna feel like I'm feeling right now. I still feel the sensation of that pinch with my finger and my thumb. It lingers, it goes on for seconds, in some cases even minutes. And that's a problem because again, learning theory tells us that as soon as the dog does the right behavior, that correction has to go away. But when we're using this tool, it doesn't always go away immediately. Now, it's not that you can't train a dog with this collar. I've trained hundreds, practically perhaps thousands of dogs with prong collars and done it successfully. However, because the communication to the dog is not as clear, not as black and white, not as congruent as when you're using an electronic collar, what we find is that it takes anywhere between 6 to 12 times longer to train a dog with a prong collar than it does with an electronic collar. Now, in some cases, neither one of these tools is going to be the best tool for your dog. We're going to help you to decide what's the best tool for your dog, what's the best tool for you. And again, you're part of that conversation, you're part of that decision-making process. In some cases, maybe you don't care if your dog doesn't listen when there's heavy distractions and you don't need to correct your dog. Now, I've not experienced that with any of the dog owners and clients that I've worked with. Most of the people I work with want their dogs and need their dogs to be very reliable under heavy distractions. And so we're using, in 99% of the cases, the electronic collar, and their dogs are extremely happy. There's no pain, no fear, no intimidation. You're gonna see in just a second a video clip of me working with an owner, working with a dog, and we're teaching the dog to come when called. And we're using the electronic collar to teach the dog to come when called. What I want you to pay attention to is the dog's attitude. Is the dog happy? Is the tail wagging? Does the dog seem to be upbeat? I want you to pay attention to that. Or are you seeing a dog that looks like it's in pain? Are you seeing a dog that looks fearful or intimidated? I think that you're going to be very surprised when you actually see how the electronic collar is used to teach a behavior, not just correct a behavior, and to see how the dog responds to the collar. Again, these aren't old-fashioned shot collars. These don't hurt. We're going to give you a chance to experience that when we come out for that first lesson. So here we go. Let's take a look at the video clip.
You can see this level 28 on here. So let him get in front of you. Call him.
Come.
When the owner gives the command, the dog feels the collar. As soon as the dog comes, the collar turns off.
Call your dog.
Yes.
Let him get distracted. Call him.
Come. Yes. Let the food out.
Call him.
Come. Yes.
Hey, buddy. Call your dog.
Come. Yes.
Hey, buddy. Hey, Rex. Hey, Rex. Call him.
Come. Yes.
Happy, happy dog. No pain, no fear, no intimidation. Just great training, great results.
Okay, you've had the opportunity to be able to see a dog actually being worked with the electronic collar. What you saw in that video is what you can expect to see with your dog. Again, a happy dog, a bouncy dog, a dog that is working very comfortably at a very, very low level. What's the low level on the electronic collar? Well, every dog's going to be a little bit different. I can tell you that most humans don't feel the first 10 to 20 levels. And in some cases, we've got dogs that will work at level 4, level 10, levels that humans don't even feel. And there are other dogs, depending upon their temperament, depending on their drive, they might work at a higher level. There's a phrase in dog training when we talk about dogs, and one is a soft dog and the other is a hard dog. And what we mean by that, a soft dog, they're extremely sensitive. You could practically look at them and point your finger and they fall down to the ground and they pee themselves. And then you've got a really hard dog where the dog's got a lot of energy, really excited. You could practically hit them upside the head and they come running back for more and go, hey, that was fun, let's do that again. Now, we don't want you hitting your dog upside the head with the 2x4. I'm just using that as an example, but you understand what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a soft dog or a hard dog. So every dog is going to be different. We're going to teach you how to find that right level for your specific dog, for your dog's specific sensitivity and temperament. In the next video, I'm going to go into a little more information about how to turn on and off the collar, what all the functions are on the electronic collar, how to fit that on your dog, and basically what the system is that we use with the electronic collar. Now again, I want to warn you, please do not try to do this on your own. We want you to learn from our trainers so you do it correctly. Again, there's a chance that you could use the tools improperly and then that's going to cause stress for your dog. We don't want that to happen. We give you these videos so that you can have a better understanding and be prepared for what it is you're going to be doing with your private trainer at home in your one-on-one instruction. These videos are not a substitute for that. They are merely a supplement to what we're going to be doing with you. Let's go into the next video that will talk more about the electronic collar.
If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. If you have a problem with your dog's behavior and training, contact Phoenix Dog Training at 602-769-1411 or visit us on the web at phoenixdogtraining.com. Those outside of Arizona, be sure to check out our online training options.